Welcome to Child Rights Art Education Series. My name remains Olakunle Sanni. On today's edition, we'll be looking at Section 25 of the Child Rights Act, which has to do with exposure to use, production, and trafficking of narcotic drugs, etc. That is, again, exposure to use, production, and trafficking of narcotic drugs, etc. Subsection 1 of this section states, no person shall A. Expose or involve a child in the use of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. B. Expose or involve a child in the production or trafficking of narcotic drugs or psychotropic substances. Subsection 2 goes further to say, a person which contravenes the provisions of subsection 1 or subsection 2 of this section commits an offense and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for life. So this section speaks to the exposure to use and production and trafficking of narcotic drugs. So subsection 1 majorly speaks to that if anybody exposes a child to narcotic, and what are those narcotic drugs or psychotropic substances? They are those drugs that dull the senses. There's those drugs that sometimes many people take them to relieve pains, or maybe many times people take them to induce sleeps, to make them sleep. Then sometimes some people take them to serve as manpower, depending on the kind of work they want to do. So, depends, it means many things to many people, but it's not something that's all right for the human body. And so that's why it is being tagged as a narcotic drug. So now we're talking about this type of drug, we're talking about marijuana, heroin, cocaine, Colorado, like people take, tramadol, all those drugs that just try to dull the senses of human being, or maybe anything that is related to that line, maybe like shisha and all those things, some kind of tobacco, which people take as well, which also dulls senses of a person or makes the person sleep or any other thing. So this, because of the content of this drug, they present danger to the health of the child. And so in seeking protection for the child, this section seeks to ensure that nobody put the life of the child at risk by giving this child or by exposing this child to these drugs. And so, for example, by subsection 1 says that we should never, nobody should, no person, irrespective of who you are, no person should expose a child or involve a child in the use of narcotic drugs. That means it doesn't have to get to the use alone, that nobody should expose this child. And so, in the course of, for example, in the course of selling this drug, we should not engage these children in the sale of this drug, or maybe in marketing this drug, or because there are some people who because that is what they do, they try to engage their children to parents. That's where they make their earnings from. They engage their children in the sale and thereby exposing them. Or some people, in terms of, yes, they don't use the drug, but they use this drug in the presence of children. So by that, they are exposing these children to to narcotic drugs. So this section 1 is not talking about those who are using the drug alone, but those who are also using it and exposing children to it, or maybe they are exposing, while they are using it, they are using it in the presence of the child. The B part of this subsection 1 also talks about those who also produce, or those who also expose children to production of these narcotic drugs. So that children should never be engaged in the production, in the mixing of the drug, or in anything. Even though children are not taking it, they should never be engaged in the production or even in the trafficking, that is moving this drug from one point to the other, then children should never be engaged in such uh, in such um, process. That is, they should not be engaged in the production of these narcotic drugs, and they should never be engaged in the trafficking of this drug. Maybe telling the child to take it, because some people take advantage of being a child. They use those children for trafficking of those drugs because they know that people do not actually usually suspect children. So in the course of maybe in the course of traveling, they put the drugs in the bag of the child, in the luggage of the child, or maybe they keep it in the child's pocket, or maybe just moving from one point to the other, because they know that it is very, very rare for the security agency to search, to conduct a search on a child. So as a result of that, people take advantage of that. So this law is also frowning at that and saying that even in the trafficking of this drug, that a child should never be engaged. And so whoever does that also commits an offense. And then if then the section two, subsection two rather of this section goes further to say that anybody who is found guilty or who contravenes who is found to have contravened the provision of this section, then will be liable to life imprisonment. That is, if the person is found guilty, after the person must have been taken to court, and then the judge finds the person guilty of guilty as charged, then the person will be sentenced to life imprisonment. So that is the punishment. So people who expose children to all these narcotic drugs, people who take children to bars when they are only alcohol content, bars who allow children to come into their places. I mean, to bars who allow those bars that allow children to come into their place and then give a room, or people who also take children to those places. All these people were all guilty. Will all be guilty of this section 25. So it's important to note this and take action to protect the right of our child instead of violating it. So let's take action to address some of these concerns so that our children can be safer and better. Thank you for joining me on today's section. Once again, I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing you again. Join me tomorrow. Please don't forget to share this content as wide as possible so that other people can learn about the rights of the child. Don't forget to also subscribe to my channel. And if you have any comment, please don't hesitate to put it down. Thank you.